All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 324 of Hobby Hotline. My name is John Newman. It's been a little bit since I've been on, at least a few weeks. Chris is here now, so I'm gonna bring him on. Obviously, I'm joined this morning to my right on the screen, Rich Klein, and only below me on the screen, Mr. Chris Carlin. Welcome,
Morning, guys.
gentlemen.
How
Hey,
are you?
Chris, did you enjoy the fights last night?
I enjoyed the Serrano fight, but the other one, oh man, that was rough to watch.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
and we're gonna talk about that. Save that. That's our second topic
okay.
Yeah,
after the first one,
Well,
and I'm
he had
sure a lot
the
of
only reason I commented is he posted
yeah,
like big screen TVs at his house with his kids. It was just such a nice visual to see.
well, it was like a throwback to the '80s and '90s when we used to have these huge parties to watch Tyson fights,
yep,
and
yep.
unfortunately, it didn't live up to the hype. Well,
You know,
the
when I was
shocker.
when I was at Beckett, we would have parties for the big fights too.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun,
All right,
but that one wasn't. Yeah, we'll get to it.
All right, why don't we lead off with this? We're here already.
I like that. But listen, we've got better video quality right now than Netflix did last night. Let's say that. Couple good mornings here. Mad City Brew, Larry Gitlin, clean clean cheap shots. Dr. Steven, Abel in Vegas, Frank Giastella. Let's see a comment here. And Netflix has NFL games at Christmas, including my Steelers against the Chiefs. So I'm hoping the video quality is better for that than last night. Philly Joe, good morning. Ruben Snyder. We're going to talk about that right now. So Mookie Chilson, good morning. All right, so that's our first topic, guys, and let me pull this up too. Um, the Paul Skenes Tops 2024 update, the Major League debut patches, which are now known commodities, guys. Here's the card itself. Obviously, being their debut patches, they're all one of ones. Well, for the first time that I'm aware of, gentlemen, an actual team, a Major League Baseball team, is offering a bounty for this card. Obviously, Skeens plays for the Pirates, so the Pirates are ponying up here to try to get this card. I'm assuming to display in the stadium, maybe, for their fans. And so here's their offer. I'll read it here. 2 season tickets behind home plate, not for 1 year, but for the next 30 years. A softball game for you and 30 of your friends, which will be coached by former Pirates alumni. Spring training experience like no other, which includes a tour of the spring training facility, a meet and greet with Paul Skeens himself, which is really cool. 2 Paul Skeens autographed jerseys. Take batting practice and warm up with the team, which is really cool. And you don't see it on this graphic, guys, but Livy Dunn, Paul's girlfriend, added to this list. You can watch a game Paul pitches right next to her in the Pirate Suite box. So that's added to this. So quite a haul if you do pull this card. Chris, we'll start with you. Being at a former manufacturer with Upper Deck, your thoughts on these cards and a major league team sort of getting involved here in the hobby and making an offer like this.
Well, listen, it makes sense. It makes sense that Fanatics is seeing the success of having shops offer bounties for cards. So why wouldn't they go to some of their best partners and share that phenomenon with them and as partners ask them to do the same? And it's not shocking to me. It's very similar to finding out that wrestling might not be totally real. It's something that they see value in. And the most important thing for me though is when David Adams offers a bounty for a card, it's to our hobby. It's to our hobby community. when the Pirates offer a bounty for a card, it's to a mainstream audience that didn't know this card existed. So to me, I love it. I love that it gives a mainstream audience a glimpse into what high-end hobby life is like. However, I will say that, similar to the Tom Brady Montreal Expos autograph chase, you're driving all these fans to try to find this golden ticket, and if they get hammered on the product, they don't come back, and it's a tricky one. So I'm hopeful that I love the fact that it's driving interest from a mainstream audience, but the product has to have some value, some excitement outside of just the debut patches to be a compelling offering to encourage sampling and keep these folks around.
Rich, you've been in the hobby a long time. Obviously, like me, long enough to know when we didn't even have autograph cards and jersey cards. Have you ever seen, to your knowledge, a Major League Sports franchise kind of get involved in hobby or try to, but
Yeah.
prior?
Yes, I mean, there have been shows. In fact, there was a show at Fenway Park this year. I know in the 70s, Dr. Beckett went to a show at Shea Stadium. There have been times where some teams are involved in getting into the hobby, but anything that gets the wider audience involved. We always talk, I'll go back to my Beckett days, we always wanted the wider audience. Chris and I are both in kind of niches now. PST is a very important niche in the hobby. ComC is a niche in the hobby. We are niches within our, but if we can build the wider audience, then we will also get good, a little bit of runoff from that as they discover what we as companies can do. So it's a net positive. You saw Rex's comment about how many people came into his store based on those social media posts. And that's one of these keys, is that the more people we get in, yes, there'll always be drop-offs, but look what happened during the pandemic. We got a lot of people in, many of them have stayed, some have left. If we can keep getting more people in, some will drop out, many will stay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I spoke to Rex and a couple other local shop owners in my area. Rex is out in Michigan and Indiana with his two stores, but he said the drive to buy some of these update packs is real. It's it was noticeable. The local shops here said that update is selling at a faster clip since this announcement.
Yeah.
Not that it's all about dollar signs, guys, but as generous as that Pirates team offer was, and it's really cool with all the experiences. You got to have a softball game with 29 of your friends and going to spring training and take batting practice. You're getting 2 Skenes autograph jerseys for trading the card along with all the other things listed. Again, not that it's all about dollar signs, but we know the hobby, that's a factor, right? I think whoever pulls the card, right, it has to weigh out like what's more valuable to them, right? All those experiences and gear, or what this card could bring, at a heritage, a golden sale, or auction sale, or private sale, for that matter. Especially if a non-Pirates fan pulls it, right?
Imagine if you're in Hawaii, like you're not taking that.
Heck, even in Texas or California, where Chris is, kind of hard to get to Pittsburgh to watch those games.
Yeah, and
so
that's where there'll be a lot of attention to where it's pulled. There's always hobby myths about manufacturers knowing where hit cards go, and quite frankly, it's not true for a major manufacturer. It's hard enough just to get the release out on time, let alone try to get regions certain hits. It's just not something that's done by a major manufacturer. A smaller manufacturer potentially could, but I just know that it's probably going to be hit somewhere odd. So it'll be interesting to watch that.
So play along with me for a second. Let's assume Topps knows that they're sending the hit in a case to David Adams. No, listen, play along with me. David Adams is a wholesaler. They don't know which case it's in. They ship it out to wherever. Boxes go wherever.
Yeah.
So even if you think you know where it's going, you don't.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Well, here's the thing. Like we're talking about, like if a non-Pirates fan pulls this card, they're most likely going to either keep it or sell it, rather than take the Pirates experience and all that. Maybe, everyone's different. I don't want to pay what, but more apt than likely to move the card or keep the card rather than do that. It brings up the thing. Could Topps? Well, not now, because that announcement came after, but it would have been interesting if that offer, like they kind of coordinated that with the Pirates and then made sure sort of the card went into sort of the Pennsylvania area, if you will. I mean, it's probably a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot, but that would have been interesting. But I mean, Topps probably wouldn't have wanted to do that because now you're only have one state out of 50 that are really chasing the card, unless they did it, off the record and hush hush and that sort of thing to drive sales across. Going back to you, Chris, with that being said, you ever see that as a possibility? Maybe they don't know specifically what hobby shop in Pennsylvania went to, but they know it went to a hobby shop in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't see, it's not worth their overall business, which, for manufacturers, you've got to have trust. You've got to have trust that collectors feel like they have a fair shot opening a box in Wisconsin as they would opening it in Florida, as they would opening it in South Korea. And if that trust evaporates, no one's going to open the products. And especially in the hobby, like it's just, it wouldn't happen. So I don't think that it's something manufacturers spend time doing because the effects of it can be so adverse. I remember a time at Upper Deck when Beckett, we send out exquisite products to different partners. We spend out all different types of product to give them a feel for it and what have you. And this one time they pulled these crazy inserts, and I think it ended up being a collation issue. But for us, it was a nightmare. And the reason was because it evaporated trust with the consumer, where all of a sudden they thought, oh, no, they're just sending Beckett these hits so everyone thinks there's something good in it. And that wasn't the case. So it's hard when you put really good cards in a product. Someone's going to hit them. But it came to me when I started sending out product to influencers and different media. My hope was that they just had an average experience with it, because if it was too good or too bad, it would adversely affect the entire run of the product. So I don't know of any manufacturer at a major level that tries to seed inserts in different regions.
I did box reviews for Sports Collectors Daily for 7 years. The only thing I ever asked the card manufacturer to do was make sure I got what the box says I was supposed to get. I mean, there used to be comments like, Rich never gets anything good. I got some decent cards, and I get some good cards, but never anything off the charts. And that was fine, because in 7 years, I only got two boxes, both of which were top in football, that did not have the autograph card in. Other than that, everything had the card in, which is all I ever asked for. And when I was at Beckett way back in the day, when the first year of National Treasures, we pulled, as Chris said, like the hottest rookie card, like the Adrian Peterson 101, which was like a $25,000 card at the time. And people thought, no, we don't want that card. Look at the problems it caused.
All right, guys. Again, not to put dollar signs on everything, but listen, that's kind of comes along with the territory. And this is for the chat room too. What do you think this card brings? Someone pulls it and says, "Hey, I'm not a Paul Skenes fan. I'm not a Pirates fan. It's an awesome card. I'm going to sell it because I want the money because I want to buy a lot more cards or other cards. What do you think what do you think when the smoke clears and the dust settles? What kind of money do you think this card brings? And this is for chat room too. Like, what is this card's value? There's no wrong answer here because it's all speculation. But from what we've seen cards prior go for, what are we putting this? What could this card bring the lucky person who eventually pulls it out of a pack?
I would let the chat room talk. I have no clue. I mean, I like the numbers they're seeing in the chat room. At least they're going for it, which is good. I will say one of the things I would do is I would contact a place like PSA, like Chris. Chris, let's get this card protected.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'll depend on the condition before someone makes a decision if they want to send it to a grading company. But this will be something that people want to preserve long term. But pitchers, man, they are so tricky. Steven Strasburg, we all remember this. We remember Mark Pryor. Collectors who've been doing this for a while know that there's always this inflated hype around pitchers. And yes, he's got a social media influencer girlfriend, and they're all over the place. And but it's a pitcher in quite frankly, a smaller market. I know whatever it sells for, it'll be more than it probably should, and I'll kind of leave it at that. I think.
I'm with Chris. And as I said, the only thing I would do is I would send it to a PSA type company, even skipping everything else, just to make sure it stays protected long term.
Yeah, and I think it was really interesting seeing Ken Golden almost surprised that the Pirates offered this bounty because he's always out there, but his response was like, whoa, hey, before you do that, why don't you come talk to me? So it's a problem that will be a good problem for whoever pulls it, how to proceed next.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to be Libby's grandfather, so I don't think
yeah.
I can dream.
Well, that don't matter. That don't matter. You can still.
I don't think my wife is going to let me go sit in Libby Dunn's suite. That's for sure.
My wife would probably push me out the door and say, "Go ahead."
That'll be the last time I see my family.
How old?
But I just
I'm just curious. Chris, remind me how old your kids are.
Oh, 11 and 13.
Oh yeah. No, this is not the time to leave them.
No.
Bo Thompson in the chat said the package offered by the Pirates probably equals about $1 million. Asking myself the same question I asked you guys in the chat room, what this card could bring. The number I have sort of in my head is $800K with a chance at maybe that 7 figures, right? Depending on who wants it, what players are. And when I say players, I'm talking bidders are involved or who wants to get this card. Because even if you're not a Pirates fan, and Chris makes a great point about, you got to tread lightly with pitchers. One pitch could change the trajectory of their career. He's been lights out early on in his career and one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. And so the hype is definitely there. Besides, with the caveat of being a pitcher, someone might overspend or overbid or overbuy this card. So the number I had answer my own question was $800K. Again, someone mentioned 30. Whether you can laugh, but 30 years of Pirate season tickets is not cheap. That's a bigger number.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, who gets it, what they do after they pull it, that sort of thing. Chris, I will kind of close out this topic with a question that was asked earlier by Abel. Why Upper Deck doesn't do this with NHL with something from the first game of almost like a Young Guns debut patch, if you will. I know you're not there anymore, but do you expect maybe to see that eventually, or something along those lines, or and if not, maybe why not?
Well, the first thing is that it requires an extreme amount of cooperation and time from the manufacturer and the league. So Upper Deck has a great relationship with the NHL, and and I think it's something that they're definitely talking about right now, doing something similar. However, the biggest thing with Upper Deck when I was there was they want to be innovative to themselves. They do not like copying other people's ideas. They do not like copying other designs. They don't like that. So um, it's whatever they're cooking up. I'm sure it will be cool, but probably a little different than the debut patch. Um, so I was thinking about the sponsorships on jerseys now. While I hate it as a fan, as a collector, I love it. And because I was at a Leafs game last week, Toronto Maple Leafs, and they've got the milk jersey, and I'm thinking, God, milk patch on their jersey, and I'm thinking, wouldn't that be cool if they did like a milk mustache patch with those guys and do integration with the people who are advertising on the jersey, and it just got my collecting product development juices percolating. So there's a lot of opportunity there for other types of innovative ideas that don't necessarily have to cut and paste what Tops is doing here.
Chris, Nat has enough money. Bobby Witt Jr. is getting to be a well-known collector. He's big into it. Put a patch on his jersey.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the most innovative things I think PSA has ever done is game used trading cards, where we had Corbin Carroll and Bobby Witt Jr. pick out some of their favorite rookie cards, put it in their back pocket during an MLB game, and run around and steal bases. And then we graded, they signed them and inscribed them, and then we graded them afterwards. And it was one of those cases where, what if a 10 wasn't the best card you could get? What if it was a 1 because they thrashed it so much during the game? And I really like that type of thinking. I love when the beautiful thing about the hobby is we're constantly reinventing a 2.5 by 3.5 inch canvas and how it's displayed and what goes on with it. So I think that's a beautiful thing and a really fun thing for the hobby.
I think going back to our original point, anything that can get us to a wider audience is a
Yeah.
Yeah, comment from Shane Zager. He mentioned maybe it's Skenes himself that wants the card, and the Pirates are sort of, acting on his behalf, if you will, which might explain kind of Livy Dunn also, kind of coming over the top and adding to the offer. I don't know, but he is a member of the Pirates, so whether it's him and the Pirates alone, I mean that's
Well, if
obviously
you
big
look at what
news.
happened with the Shohei 50/50 ball, it's already being on display as a driver for traffic. So it's totally within reason that the Pirates would do a display for that. And again, what an incredible thing that would be for our hobby. Imagine how many people go in and out of that stadium who have no idea what collecting is like today. That's one of the biggest issues I think manufacturers have, is helping someone who hasn't collected in 20 years understand what it's like to open a pack today versus 20 years ago. And this would give our industry even though it's Pittsburgh, it's not like the Mets or the Dodgers, but it would give us an incredible opportunity to showcase the high end opportunities that are found in regular packs.
Yeah, no doubt. Maybe it is a coordinated effort where the Pirates are saying, "Listen, we'll give you this card eventually, but we want to display it in the stadium for our fans and fans of you to enjoy and see, and we'll kind of co-own it, if you will. And if it ever not on display, we'll give it to you to do what you wish, Paul. Maybe something along those lines." All right, guys. Well, we spent 25 minutes there, which is fine. I think it's definitely a worthy topic. If we kind of touched on it a little bit in the open about the Tyson Paul fight, which was the headliner event of four fights last night. It was Netflix's first foray into live sports. This is a screenshot of what their you know what their quality of the video program. If you're lucky, you might have got this. If you were unlucky, you got the buffering,
Yeah,
which I
the
got.
circle that went on forever.
Yeah, I had to like three times. I had to like exit out of the channel and like kind of enter back in to get out of the buffering. That did
Three
work. I don't
times,
know if
maybe
other.
like 300.
Yeah, well, there was a couple times it buffered and then it came back on its own, and then there was a few times, Chris, where it buffered and it was like, I don't know if this is coming back. So I'm going to exit and then come back in. And that trick worked. So I don't know, you know, but, I told my wife who stayed up a little bit, but eventually went to bed. Like they're like shooting this with a potato. Like this is a major event or one they're saying is a major event. And this is, where was the quality control? That would have been my question to anybody involved at Netflix. Like, what happened here? You know, um, even the announcers were not great.
Oh, the
Evander,
announcers. Oh, it was rough.
yeah, it was tough. And I like Rosie Perez. She is a boxing fan,
Yeah.
but this was her first foray into doing live fights that I'm aware of. And maybe she has before. If you're a fan of boxing like I am, it was tough to see Evander Holyfield in the condition he was. He was having seemed like he was a little disoriented. Had a long career, took a lot of shots to the head, had a piece of his ear bitten off by said Mike Tyson. So he's been through the ringer. It was a tough night on that side. There were some great fights. Chris, you mentioned the Serrano-Taylor fight, which was great. I was a fan of the Barrios Ramos fight, which was a
That's a
war.
great one, too. Yeah. Had it not been for those two fights, this would go down in history as the worst boxing event in history, I think. Those two fights saved it.
Yeah, Bo liked the announcers, so beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Roy Jones Jr., who's not at fighting weight anymore. I don't think any of us are once, at certain points. But they had some mic issues there where mics weren't working, earpieces weren't working. At one point, Lennox Lewis had to like repeat the question to Evander. I don't know.
It was tough to watch. I mean, imagine HBO just going, "Yes, this is wonderful." It was painful.
Showtime.
All I have to say is that I'm grateful that Mike Tyson did not get beat up the way Evander Holyfield did a couple of years ago when he fought an exhibition and ended up crumpled in a corner. John, you're muted.
I echo what Vintage Card Collector just put here. Forget the next problems. Paul Tyson couldn't have been more boring, complete snooze fest. Yeah, unfortunately, it did not live up to the hype. I'm a Brooklyn kid. I kind of knew about Tyson before Nationwide did. I would kind of claim him as a own if you're from Brooklyn, a fellow Brooklynite. I know he's flawed inside and outside of the ring, but arguably at certain, at one point, baddest man on the planet, warts aside. He's 50, like you said, Rich, he's 58 years old. There's always that risk that, something bad can happen. I was hoping, I knew stamina, obviously, as a fellow 50-year-old, I know stamina can be an issue. So I knew being in, the rounds were shortened to 2 minutes rather than 3, 8 rounds. It looked to me like Tyson, if you look at the stat cast on the punches thrown, very inactive. He was just kind of moving around, trying to avoid being hit. He did get hit. He seemed very content to finish the 8 rounds, win, lose, or draw. No one's going to argue that he won the fight. It was a big paycheck for both these guys, Paul and Tyson, and that's what it looked like, right? Very flattering, from the pre-fight stuff with the slap and the trash talk, and then the in-fight stuff of like they couldn't say enough nice things about each other. Um, Definitely disappointing on my. Listen, I'm not fooling myself. I didn't expect to see Tyson in his prime. I was hoping he'd come out for a round or two and
Yeah,
try to get it done. Then I
it's just
knew, like, if this
give us
thing
the
goes 8 rounds, we're not going to see prime Tyson in an 8 round fight. Go
no.
ahead,
We
Chris.
we just I think what anyone hoped for was just a glimpse of what he used to be, and I mean there were a couple punches, but it wasn't there, and it was and Jake was jabbing and boxing, and now I'm hearing things about maybe it having been scripted, and if it was scripted, it was a horrible script. But yeah, it was a calamity. Just a disaster. My two sons were like, "Why aren't they fighting, Dad?" But they had just come off the other two fights prior, and I explained to them, when you get old, it's hard to move around. George Foreman was talking about Tyson's legs, and yeah, it was just sad.
Yeah, the only other thing worse than the fight itself, Chris, and I'll get your thoughts too. I'm assuming you watched like the post fight interview when the interviewer asked Tyson, "Is this the last time we're going to see you in the ring?" The correct answer should have been, "Yeah, this is it. I've had a great career. Boxing's been very good to me, but this is it." He says, "I don't know." And then even later on in the same conversation, when Jake Paul's brother Logan basically said he would beat up Tyson, he says, Tyson said, "Okay, we have another fight," or something along, paraphrasing, right? I hope we don't. Based on what we saw last night, I hope this is it. And if he was to get back in the ring, he's probably going to be 59 by all the time the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and everything would be aligned for another Tyson bout. He's now 59 years old, almost 60. I don't want to see it. I don't know if would watch again. I probably was, like Chris said, I was sort of hoping we'd see a glimpse early in the round or two early, and that would be it. But what we got was just two guys dancing around, throwing punches occasionally. Tyson, I think, landed 18 punches in 8 rounds. That's 2.3 a round of landed punches. It was a snooze fest, as many in the chat room, and it was a long night, right? It was a 4-hour event. If you watched everything, now some people might have just said, "Listen, hey, somebody text me when the fight's about to start, and then I'm in." That was probably the smarter play. So but maybe not, because those 3 fights before
No,
were better fights. So you
yeah.
missed the best. If you just came in for the Tyson Paul fight, you missed the best part of the
You'd be
night
furious,
with the 3
yeah.
other fights.
No, I would rather
go
watch
ahead.
an AI match of Tyson in his prime and and Paul, that's computer generated than what we saw last night. That's for sure.
Some comments we'll get to, TJ. Yeah, I saw that picture of Tyson with his butt cheeks. Maybe a Tops Now card there. Ruben wants to get some hobby fights going. He's proposing Ken Golden versus Jeff Wilson. Maybe have a career, another career, Chris, as a hobby boxing promoter. Maybe
See,
something
I'm a promoter,
Rich
or
could do.
I'd love to be an analyst on the side. Me and Rosie Perez talking about Jeff and Ken going at it. Please.
Yeah, bum fight, sports cards breaker edition. It was not a good night for Netflix for their first out of the gate sports event. They're, like people said, they're going to do football on Christmas. My Steelers versus the Chiefs are one of those on the docket. I'm hoping that the video quality is better. I'm sure the audio, there'll be NFL announcers on those games, and so that I'm not too worried about. I'm just hoping I can see it better than. At one point, I said to my wife, I don't know, I said, "Is it our TV or is it like them? Like do we have it like, you can change your, I don't know why you'd want to take it off HD, but you can. I thought maybe I had hit a button like on the remote by accident and took it out. So I actually backed out, while there was no fight going on. I backed out, went to a regular channel, and obviously the picture quality was fine and came back. And just that's when I realized, like, this is Netflix, like, cameras, like, producing these kind of video. I mean, how does that happen? I don't think anyone has the answer, but like, how does that happen when millions of people are probably going to be tuning in?
Too many people, seriously. That probably it was more people than they expected, and their network could not handle it.
You ever tried to buy something on Tops 5 years ago? Tops.com?
Yeah, Netflix servers needed more hamsters and rabbit ears. Yeah, and again, I listen as a Tyson fan, and I'm not a fan of everything he did inside, but as a boxer and legend and iconic person of the sport of sweet science, he is, and it's sad that that's sort of but I hope that's the last we see of him in the ring. I know he's done movies. Listen, do movies, Mike. Right? He's been funny in movies. He can extend. He did a one man kind of speaking like Broadway tour. Like that was, I didn't see it, but I've spoken to people who went and said it was really cool and interesting. Like I don't want him to necessarily ride off in this. Go
John,
ahead.
he's still a huge at any trading card show he attends. And he really makes the show for the. I was at the Music City card show and the line was wrapped around the concourse. And he's great. He's great in person with people. I don't know how he moves through this line so quickly, but he's just a big draw. People are drawn to him. He's our modern day Muhammad Ali, and it's. I've got a signature of him right behind me. So I mean,
I have one right, bro. Same thing.
I don't.
Yeah, if you're a collector, you've got to have some type of autograph.
But in all seriousness,
Well, 5 Ball says fight was filmed on an iPhone. So there's the reason for the poor quality.
Washed up as a fighter 20 years ago, and you don't get the fountain of youth 20 years after your last professional fight. I mean, there were people he would have disposed of in 30 seconds that were knocking him out 20 years ago. So, I mean, and that's why I was really more worried about his health than anything else. Because Jake Paul may not be a great fighter, but he's been fighting continuously for the last couple of years. And so he's been in constant training. He's fighting, he's younger. And I'm just thankful, as I said, that he didn't get hurt. John, you did it again.
I know I keep doing that. Listen, no one's going to argue Jake Paul is like a tactical, skilled boxer, but he can throw a punch, right? And kind of piggyback it off what you said, right? No one wants to see anyone get seriously hurt in the ring. People have been killed in the ring. It's not uncharted territory. So I concur. I don't think anyone was hoping for a serious injury, but like Chris, I think I concur with Chris. I think we were hoping for a glimpse, especially in that first round. If you told me the fight was going to last 8 rounds, I knew at least 6 of those rounds were probably going to be a snooze fest based on stamina. So, I was just hoping for he'd just come out mad for a round and maybe connect on a few things. Rock Jake Paul backwards or knock him down, knock him out. That didn't obviously happen. And then it became just a dance competition with Paul throwing more punches than Tyson. And Tyson looking like, hey, I'm getting paid. I'm just going to survive and just say, hey, I went 8 rounds with a younger kid. And, I was just hoping he would have said, this was my last fight when he was asking. He didn't. I'm just hoping smarter people just don't put him up to fighting anymore. Do appearances, do movies, do shows, beat TV heck, being a boxing analyst if that's something he want to do. He doesn't have to ride off into the sunset. We don't have to see him again, but I don't want to see him again in the squared circle. Not like that. And that's kind of probably where I'm at with someone who admires him as a boxer. So, all right. I think we beat that to a pulp, unlike the fight itself. So let's go to our next topic, which I know, CJ Ferrer. I think I'm saying his name right.
EJ.
EJ Ferrer. Like he had a post that he will be stepping down from Fanatics. He was in charge or one of the top guys in setting these Fanatics Fest up that were the one that took place in New York and the other ones that were scheduled that did not occur. Rich, you brought this. This was your topic to bring. Did you kind of alluded to that? Maybe is this the end of Fanatics Fest? Is Fanatics reassessing this event? I guess are they stopping them like forever, or are they just trying to regroup and get more organized? I'll let you go first
not
here.
sure. However, I actually watched several videos where people are stating things. I have no idea. But what concerns me is Chris went to Fanatics Fest in New York, and that was a blast of an experience, right?
It was the best trading card show I've ever been to in my life.
That's pretty good compliment. So obviously they know how to do shows. They know how to get the wider audience in. I think it's a matter of recalibrating, figuring out exactly how you want to do things. And what I feel really sorry for the people that don't have jobs, that had jobs 48 hours ago. I know what it's like to lose a job. It's no fun. And that's what I'm really concerned about. And on a corporate level, we want them to succeed. Nobody wants shows to fail. Chris said it was a great show. I guarantee you, if Fanatics does something anywhere, it will bring in a wider audience because they have such a great mailing list. So I want the shows to succeed. I think they probably need to just reconnoiter and figure out exactly how to do it. And whether they want to do this Fanatics Fest and treat them as almost lost leaders and understand that the money, if they lose it, will be around the area, or whether they want to run a show that's more dealer based and with some aspects brought in, that's up to them. I've run 50 table shows. I've run 50 table shows. I've never run a show that big. I've gone to shows that big, but I've never. But I'm more concerned about the corporate. We want it to succeed. I guarantee you, Chris and PSA wants to go to shows like that and see them succeed like the one in New York did, which every indication was an incredible show.
I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know if Chris or Rich does. Was he let go or did he resign? Or, sometimes when someone's let go, the company will say, hey, we'll acquiesce. Like you can say you're stepping down. So you sort of say.
No, he shared that he was let go. And it sounds like it's part of some type of reorganization or restructuring. But the sad part for me is EJ is really beloved by hobby dealers, and he's done a lot to build relationships with hobby dealers really early for someone at his age. And to me, I think it doesn't bode well for hobby dealers being involved potentially in Fanatics Fests in the future. I don't know. I just don't know. But it's tough. I'm guessing he's probably not the only one that was let go, but probably because he's at that director level, it gives and Rich, I'm sure this is probably why you brought it up, is it's a concern as to what the future holds for those. But I right now I feel like we're living in this golden age of trading card shows, right? Like they're back at every local hotel on the weekends. We got 20 tables or 30 tables. And then there's bigger regional shows with 200, 300, 400, 800 tables. So it's exciting that, yes, Fanatics Fest was and is, an incredible mix of pop culture and leagues and cards, which, we all love. But there's always, right now, coming out of COVID, there are so many different shows and events. And that's where PSA is really spending a lot of time and money is getting out in front of customers and collectors and meeting them on their own turf instead of having them, send items to us. We're going out to them and trying to engage them and help them understand what grading is all about. So being at the Fall Expo in Toronto, which was an extremely healthy show, so busy, in fact, that I didn't even get to walk the show until the last day. So the trading card show market for that is as good as I've ever seen it. So that bodes well for our industry.
I will tell you, even though we missed you at the Dallas Card Show, the PSA presence was definitely an important part of the last Dallas Card Show. I know they calibrated a little when the Orlando show got canceled, but it was great to see PSA.
Yeah, Dallas Card Show is a great show for us, and we can't be at every one, but yeah, it's good.
How many people do you have in the Plano office, give or take?
Oh, the Plano office is just getting started, so there's no one there right now. But
initially I was thinking, once you get the Plano office going, you should do it every Dallas Card Show. But even if it's just a table, you don't have to always take the whole room. Just make sure you have a presence in every Dallas Card Show. Because
that's our hope.
The commute's not very far.
Yeah. Well, here's an idea for a new show from Bob Boozle. I'll sign up for this. He says, I feel like Hobby Hotline Fest would make more money with a barbecue in Rich's backyard. You had me, Bob, you had me at barbecue. I'm sure, and I'd love to see Rich again in person and anyone else from Hobby Hotline who can make it to Dallas for Hobby Hotline Festival.
I'll make some burnt hot dogs.
There you go. I'll bring dessert. I don't know what, but I'll bring. I'll bring dessert. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a report. I didn't forget on purpose. I can't remember who published it. That Topps is, Fanatics / Topps. Their valuation was disappointing of what they're worth. There's been reports that the Fanatics Fest have kind of lost money. Even the one in New York, Chris, which he said was so great. Behind the scenes.
Well, when's the last time Jay-Z and Beyonce have come to a trading card show? I mean, Livy Dunn was buying Paul Skenes cards from a dealer right across from me. You've got Allen Iverson opening up product on the main stage on a Sunday, an hour before it's going to end, and everyone's glomming around that. You've got it was nonstop. Like, you didn't know where to look. So I think they executed that brilliantly, but maybe dial back some of the celebrity power on it.
Tom Brady bought Joe Montana cards.
Yeah, Tom Brady was out there buying cards, and it was incredible.
I got to answer this from Foul Ball. He says, bring back Hobby Hot Tub, which was a little thing I did for a few episodes. No, much like Mike Tyson's career, that's also over as well. So
John, Hot Tub and Mike Tyson cheeks are two things.
Well, I was under the water. I was under the water for people's sanity and aesthetic. So but that'll be the end of that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know they had announced a show kind of just before the National. Has that been canceled as part of this reorganization? Do we know?
We don't know yet.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll still see it. Like Chris said, that they can just regroup and think about how they want to do it and still put on a great event. Maybe not lose as much money or be profitable. But So Rex, who owns a store, and Ruben is on the record saying they want to be every part of the hobby, but the questions around Fanatics Fest might be a signal that there might be lanes that are too crowded even for them. He announced too, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but with Chris being here, Fanatics had announced they wanted even to get in the grading space, and obviously they're not going to be able to acquire PSA. I don't want. I'm speaking for myself here, but I think many would agree. I don't want Fanatics having a part in a grading company. I think it's a conflict of interest. I understand, like,
You're grading your own
you know,
homework.
yeah, and as someone in the teaching profession, I don't want to see that. So I hope that never happens. Like, I know there's collaborations where, hey, they run a special. Hey, Topps Chrome is $10 for the next month. That's fine, but I don't want a company itself owning a grading company where, like Chris said, they're grading their own homework, grading their own cards, and grading their competition's cards on the same at the same times.
Well, Bob
That's
Boozy has an interesting comment in chat, and it reminds me, and Fanatics reminds me very much of Upper Deck in the early 2000s, where the company had every license. They had Yu-Gi-Oh, golf was coming out, all these high end athletes were on board with us, and you just when you get that big, you start missing things. You start making errors. You start just misfiring a little bit, and you see that sometimes with some of the quality control issues that come out. But yeah, Bob's right. It's you gotta make sure that you're focusing on the quality day to day, innovative PR, all that good stuff. But when you take on so many licenses, it's hard to scale, and it's easy to start missing things. And when quality suffers in this industry, collectors stop buying. Like you stop buying this brand or what have you. So you've got to be hitting on all cylinders all the time. It's really difficult to execute, quite frankly.
Well, Rex makes a point here real quick. He owns, again, Rex runs two stores, owns two stores. Fanatics is now selling top loaders, mag cases, and sleeves to their direct accounts, all branded under the Fanatics name. So they're throwing their hat in the supply ring. I don't know. I'm assuming that another supply company is making the products, and then they're just being branded Fanatics supplies. But again, here's going back to that spread too thin, or having their hands in multiple cookie jars. Now they're into the direct to LCS's order our supply. So there's
John, they're
another
not the only
example.
company in the supply business. Leaf,
No,
their
no, but
got into the supply business too.
okay, all right, guys. So let's go to what the last one I had on the docket today. Not a huge story, but it's worth talking about. As someone who was involved a little bit with it, Collectible Inc., the fractional company, has announced that December 13th will be their last day of existence. They use the current buzzword when a company closes or ends, or a website shuts down, the sunsetting. So for a Collectible is sunsetting Collectible. They sent out an email, which I received, letting take out any of your funds, turn in your sell your shares, take your money out. That they're going away. I had already done that prior to the email anyway, to be 100% transparent. But I'm sure others haven't, and now will have to. And I thought of the bigger picture, right? There's other companies that do similar things, Rally, Alt, maybe someone else that I'm not at the top of my head right now. Is the fractional market? It rose up, especially during the COVID crescendo. Is this sort of the end of the line? Like, what you guys have been in the hobby a long time. How do you see this? Is this sort of like, it was good while it lasted, but it's probably not going to?
Rich, I'll let you take this for starters.
I never got into that market. So I can't really comment other than if you really get into the fractional market, you need a market that's continually on the upswing. If the market goes onto the downswing, you lose whatever you lose a percent of whatever you put in. I am old enough. I remember when Mickey Mantle cards went to $3,000 in 1981. By 1982, on the 52 Topps Mantle, they were back to $300. I mean $500. You lose money, and if you lose money, you don't want to be in the thing. And I've seen enough people who track the market talk about how values have decreased on many cards. Well, if values are decreasing, the fractional market doesn't really help you very much.
Yeah, I've never been that excited about it, and I think most collectors, at their heart, it's hard for them to even fathom doing something like that. I mean, for me, if I've got my cards, I don't want to share them with anyone. That's the biggest thing about the hobby, is that this is mine. I got this, and the chase, that's what it is. And to be able to say, hey, I have this one card and you don't, not like it's childish, but we're all big kids, and being able to say nana nana boo boo, I got this one and you don't, is what makes collecting fun. So this idea of sharing an ownership on really premium cards, it's interesting for sure from an investment standpoint, but I think for most collectors, everyone watching this show, we have an emotional tie to each of our collectibles. So the idea of sharing it is a hard one to get around. We've got a family heirloom that my brothers and I share. But there's just one pair of these special Kobe Bryant autograph shoes that we have. But they're the Easter version of the shoes, and each Easter it passes to a different brother in the family. And it's my turn this year, so I'm rather excited. But at the same time, I hate that I can't own it myself, So it's tricky unless it's family. I think it's hard to share it with strangers, really.
Yeah, I'll speak to this myself. So I mentioned that I had sold my shares. I had about $100 put into and it was all Jackie Robinson items. People know Jackie Robinson is my idol growing up in Brooklyn. So it was all Jackie Robinson stuff. The only thing I still own 7 shares of to this day is not on collectible side, but rally side with the Mickey Mantle Boyhood Home. And I bought 7 shares. I think they were $5 a piece. So I own like 0.0015% of that Mickey Mantle Boyhood Home. I bought 7 shares. I think you'll get the correlation with the 7 shares or why I picked 7. That's the only fractional that I still own to this moment. So I had sold all my Jackie Robinson fractionals, which again was around $100. So it wasn't like I was, breaking the bank.
Yeah.
One of those things I bought was the Leaf Rookie, the I believe it was PSA 8, because I didn't have one yet. Yeah. And so it was the closest thing. And it was funny, once I actually got one, not a PSA 8, unfortunately, not in the budget there. But once I got that, actually bought that card and owned it, I actually showed my fractionals, because much like Chris says, right, there's nothing like having the actual card in your possession. So and that will never be replaced. I think we all.
Yeah, I mean, fractionals really came into play during the pandemic when collecting was at its peak, when people were buying a ton of NFTs. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, NFTs are God's way of telling us that you've got too much money. So I'm not surprised to see this change given the current market conditions.
And much like Rich said, hey, I didn't jump into this. The 7 Mantle shares will be like the last thing I own. If I ever sell them, I probably won't even do that. I'll just have them, and it'll be what it is. But as far as any new offerings, I don't even really, to tell you the truth, pay attention. And I think this market is getting tougher. I think there's a lot of people, like you said, Chris, that you either own the card or item, or you don't, right?
Yeah.
And I think the majority of people in the hobby fall under that criteria rather than the fractional market. And I think that's why we're talking about, collectible going away. I'm not predicting that the other companies are in trouble or going away, but they have to be more creative to kind of maybe stay afloat. And in Rally's case, they're not just cards; they're doing purses and cars and jewelry and art and who knows what. And
Tom
so,
Fish at Blowout has a really compelling offer where it's sealed wax and it's fractional ownership of sealed wax, and it's a 5-year program, and they hold the wax for the first 2 years. Third year they sell off a third of it. Fourth year they sell off a third of it, and the last year they sell off a third of it, and the returns have been incredible. But sealed wax is a much different animal than a vintage trading card. But I think having a plan, a path to get out of it at a certain time is a much better plan of owning it in perpetuity and owning 3% of it or whatever it may be.
yeah, no doubt. And, again, I'm piggybacking off what Rich said earlier, right? When you hear a company closing, and it doesn't matter what industry, hobby, outside the hobby, as a human, right? You think, at least I do, and I know
Yeah,
you guys do, you think of that human element, right? Someone's got
sure.
to come home and tell the family, like, hey, I'm going to have to get a new job, right? It's over. And that's always tough. And I've been there years ago. So it's not fun. It's scary. And so the human element, you hate to hear about these stories. And but the hobby, is a big place. It's also growing in some aspects. So, a lot of these folks will hopefully land, on their feet, maybe in a different role with obviously a different company, and be okay. And that's where my mind goes, and I know you
Yeah,
guys
for sure.
probably echo that. So, all right, guys, we went a couple minutes over time, not too bad, but again, thank you for joining me today, and some great discussion. And I think Rich got his microphone from Netflix, so we still love you. We we still we
Sorry about
still.
that. I don't know what mic's been working fine until today. You knew when you must have jinxed it.
Well,
Yeah,
we still listen. We still love you, Mike. All being said, and you'll figure that out. But
Would you
I
rather
still heard
have
you.
the Mike
I
be
still
back
heard you.
or
So
Bob's Rich return?
yeah. So if we do, listen, if we do these hobby boxing fights, I don't know who we can match Rich up with. So I don't know. That'll
Dr.
be fun.
Jim.
He, he's in better shape than I am. He beat the crap out of you, right?
Rich, I like your chances because you could just sneak up on him on going through the dollar bins.
True.
There you
You
go.
know,
That's it.
nowadays at the Dallas card show, they don't like the chairs in the aisles. He actually would be behind the table. It'd be really hard to do that.
Oh
All
man.
right. On the note of Dr. Jim versus Rich Klein boxing hobby fights, we're gonna call that a show. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to those who listen even after the fact. We appreciate you, and we'll be back here on next Saturday. We'll see you.